What's up, everybody? My name is Shannon, and I am still waiting for my Satyr, and 2020 has finally come to an end, which means it's time to talk about 2021 reading goals, everything that's gonna bring. I think I can speak for just about everybody when I say that 2020 was one of the worst years ever. It was just really, really awful. I'm very happy that it's over and done with. I don't really talk about like personal things on this channel. I pretty much just keep it to the books, talking about reviews, that kind of thing, but 2020 was just all around pretty bad. I mean, it started out okay. I did get to go on a trip with my friend before lockdown happened, which was really great. I was really glad that I got to see her in person. But once lockdown started, like the hits just kept on coming. Basically, I have been laid off from work since March. I have not really been able to get back to work since March. And it's just kind of been me sitting at home with my books, which is why I did a lot of rereading, which is also why I did a lot of like revisiting really old stuff. Like I wanted to reread Twilight. I wanted to, read more Percy Jackson because it's just stuff that I felt comfortable with, stuff that I kind of wanted to return to. And I was also able to read more because I was home. So that was kind of, a little bit of a plus on that side. I decided that since I was going to be home, because normally when I would do my reading, I did most of my reading at work actually, and then, here and there while I was at home. But since I was going to be here all the time, I really wanted to make sure I could still be reading and still get those books done. So I made a goal to read 100 pages a day, and that's really why I was able to read so many books this year. I attribute all of everything that I was able to read, everything I was able to get done, to me saying you have to read 100 pages a day, because I definitely struggled with feeling like I wasn't being productive, like I wasn't doing enough stuff. So I kind of threw myself a little bit more into the YouTube side of things, which I'm glad that did pay off a little bit. But since I did decide to read 100 pages a day back in March, instead of hitting, my 120 book goal, I ended up reading 165 books, which is mind-boggling to me. Again, that's because I've been home, I've been laid off, and I know for a lot of people, reading was just something that they couldn't do. I've had friends who they couldn't meet their reading goals because of the stress of everything that's happened with 2020, and I totally get that. I think if I hadn't have told myself, you have to do this in order to feel productive, I probably would have stopped reading, because it is something that I have to be in the right headspace for. It makes me feel better when I'm reading. It really is like an escape for me, but sometimes, it's hard to say I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna read because you have interruptions or your mind is being too loud or any of that kind of stuff. Because along with reading, I also listen to a lot more music. I got back into Taylor Swift, which I hadn't really listened to since middle school, and I started to learn how to crochet. I've crocheted a lot of things, mostly Star Wars figures. I'm working on some blankets. So when my mind would get too loud, I would kind of switch over to doing those things instead of doing the reading, while still telling myself, get to that 100 pages. It doesn't have to be all at once as long as you get to it today. So I want to talk about my top 3 favorite books that I read in 2020, especially because I feel like 2 of them they're not controversial, but they're kind of controversial. It's weird. It's a weird mood. So the first one is Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I loved this book. So many people hate the beginning, and then they just, it was good, it was fine, whatever, but man, I loved it from start to finish. I thought the pacing was so well done. I thought the world building was so good. I've actually been wanting to reread it a lot. It's kind of hard to believe that it's been almost a year since that book came out. It is so long, and every time I'm like, all right, I'm gonna reread Crescent City, suddenly all the new month releases will come out, and I'm like, well, okay, let's just push it back even farther. But I really loved Crescent City. If you haven't read it, highly recommend giving it a shot, because I feel like it's probably one of the best that Sarah J. Maas has written, in my opinion. The next one is A Song of Wraiths and Ruin, which completely took me by surprise. This was the first book in a series. I think it's gonna end up being a duology, and I didn't really know anything about it going into it. I just knew, it was gonna be very diverse. It was going to be very focused in on African mythology, and I was just really into giving it a shot, and it completely blew my mind, completely blew me away. I'm actually really mad that it didn't win Best Fantasy for 2020, because in my opinion, it's definitely the best debut, best new release that came out in 2020. So I highly recommend the audiobook, because they just did a really good job with that. Finally, my last top 3 of 2020 was The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. Now with this book, I kind of have changed my opinion into like, I don't necessarily recommend it all the time because it's very bittersweet and it's very sad. I've actually, you know, encountered a couple people who have like very negative reactions to it, and like I totally understand that because the way it's structured, the way like it's narrated, the way like the actual story that's being told is definitely not for everybody. I feel like a lot of things that were in this book are things that I particularly just really personally like. So I loved Addie of Larue. Like it made me cry by the end of it. It is a sad story. It does have kind of a sad, bittersweet ending, but if it sounds like it might be up your alley, I would give it a shot. You know, go into it with like a grain of salt. It's not going to be like, you know, spectacular if like you're not into that kind of thing. But for me, it probably is my favorite book of the year, which did take me by surprise. I didn't think anything was going to top Crescent City, but I really, really enjoyed this one. So going into 2021, setting my reading goal, I've thought about this a lot because I know I was able to read 165 books because I'm home and because, you know, I did set that goal for myself of trying to read every day. And I still want to try to read every day, but I do know, you know, going into 2021, I do want to try to go back to school. I want to try to pick up like some more classes here and there, kind of, you know, get like more going towards that career that I'm kind of looking at. And I also could be starting a new job. I don't know if my job's ever going to be able to get back up and running fully yet. So I'm not quite sure where I'm going to be. But I do think I could set a goal of 150 and that be pretty comfortable. Like that was going to be like my next milestone after 120. The way I do goals is like if I don't hit it, it's just my goal next year and I'll just keep working towards it. I think 150 will be a good one. I think realistically, if I do get back up to work and like things do get like up and running again, I don't know if I'm going to quite hit it. I think I'll definitely get over 100. But I think 150 is like a good thing to shoot for. I also want to try to keep releasing videos 3 days a week. I feel like that's really done a lot for my channel. I don't know how consistent that's going to be. Like Saturday will definitely be a day that I have to skip. Like this past week I had to skip a Monday, which just really threw me off. We had a little bit of a COVID scare in my house. I had a sinus infection, so it just didn't quite happen. But going into next year, I feel like I could probably do 3 videos a week, if not definitely 2. I think, you know, 2 books a week is definitely still gonna happen. And I wanna try to hit that 150. If I don't, whatever, it's something to shoot for. And I would really love to know your reading goals as well. If you don't follow me on Goodreads, I pretty much will follow anybody back on Goodreads, and I would love to see your goals. So you can find the links for that in the description of this video. Going into what's coming up. Right now I am reading Six of Crows and I am loving it, which is very surprising. I'm really excited to talk about that. I'm glad to be going into 2021 on a high note. I'm also reading These Violent Delights, which a lot of you have been recommending. I've been really excited to get to it. I'm only about 100 pages into it and ooh, it is so good. So good. I'm already just like, yes, this is what I want. So those are some things to look forward to going into the next couple of weeks. Hopefully 2021 will be better than 2020. Let's go into it a little bit more cautiously. I hope you guys are excited as I am, and let's see what happens. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit that like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe so you can talk books with me every week. That is everything I got for today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!